So students, today will be the last formal session for Science 1, where we will complete the remaining part of the last chapter, which is the second last chapter of the textbook, chapter number 9, carbon compounds, where we will focus on ethanol and ethanoic acid, two compounds, two carbon compounds. As usual, be ready with your textbooks, notebooks, pencils, and pens. Participate. This is what we are going to do now in the current session. We will have a quick look at what all we have studied so far in the current chapter. Won't take long. I will clarify one aspect of the IUPAC nomenclature, one example, and then we will study two very important, commercially important carbon compounds, ethanol and ethanoic. So when we say we will study, we will understand what they are. We already know this. We will just quickly go through what they are, what their properties are, both physical and chemical properties, and what are their uses. What they are, what are their physical and chemical properties, and what are their uses. After that, we will look at the part of the chapter which will not be asked in the exam. It has been omitted from this year's syllabus. So I had showed you that portion at the beginning of the chapter. I will take you through the same portion in a little bit more detail today. Only a little bit. We will not study that. I will give you enough information so that you can study on your own. So what have we studied so far? Let me share the textbook with you and go through the pages. In this chapter, opening the textbook, hang on. This is how the chapter looked at the beginning. This is how the chapter starts in the textbook. So we first reminded ourselves of organic and inorganic compounds. And we also introduced ourselves to the concept of how nowadays many or most of the or all of the organic compounds can even be made artificially, manufactured artificially. So the new phrase, new terminology that we use is carbon compounds and not organic compounds. Having said that, the old terminology is still used. Then we understood what is carbon atomically. So we looked at the atomic number, electronic configuration that help us understand how carbon will or how carbon can combine with other elements, how the atoms of carbon can combine, and they do combine with atoms of other elements. Most importantly, we realized that carbon does not lose electrons, it does not gain electrons, it shares electrons to form the covalent bonds with atoms of other elements. We then studied how we can show these covalent bonds, mainly using dot structure, line structure. The line structure is also called as the structural formula. We looked at water, oxygen, nitrogen. We also looked at ammonia and methane, the simplest hydrocarbon, methane. Next, we acknowledged that there are millions and millions of different carbon compounds that occur in nature, from a small molecule like methane to a very common molecule like carbon dioxide to a very exotic molecule like DNA, which makes life possible. Okay. So they are present everywhere, and they are present in all the life forms. Then we understood why that is the case, why carbon has so many different compounds. And we understood that there are four main reasons. One is this property of carbon, where it can form covalent bonds with other carbon atoms. This property is called catenation. This power is called power of catenation. Page number 113, bottom of the page. So because carbon atoms combine with themselves, they can form chains of different lengths. So many different compounds are possible. Some with 1 carbon, some with 4 carbons, some with 5 carbons. There is no limit. Second reason is how one carbon atom combines with another carbon atom. It's not just one way. There are 3 different ways. They can combine with each other with a single bond, with a double bond, with a triple bond. So carbon atoms can form chains, and the chains themselves can differ from each other with respect to the bonds that they have between them. Not just the number of carbon atoms, but also with respect to the type of bonds that are there. Third reason is the big valency of carbon. It is not 1 or 2, it is 4. And because of that, it is possible to combine with many different elements, atoms of many different elements. And so another reason why there are so many different compounds of carbon. Finally, we also understood that carbon compounds, many carbon compounds, have this property which is called isomerism. Isomerism, or to be more strict, structural isomerism, more specific, structural isomerism is when different molecules have same molecular formula but different structural formula. These are the 4 reasons why there are millions and millions of different carbon compounds. Then we started studying about the carbon compounds, and the first type of carbon compounds that we studied are called hydrocarbons. Actually, we started studying them last year. Hydrocarbons are the carbon compounds which have only 2 elements in them, carbon and hydrogen. Simplest one is methane. And we classified the hydrocarbons in 3 specific groups. Before that, we classified them in 2 specific groups, saturated and unsaturated. Saturated hydrocarbons are those hydrocarbons in which the bonds between any 2 carbon atoms are only single bonds. Unsaturated hydrocarbons are those hydrocarbons in which at least one bond between carbon atoms is either a double bond or a triple bond. So depending on the type of bond, if all the bonds are single bonds, we call them alkanes. If at least one of the bond is double bond, we call them alkenes. And if at least one bond is a triple bond, we call them alkynes. We went back to the property of catenation, and we appreciated that the chain itself can be of different types. The chain of carbon atoms can be of different types. It can be open or closed. If it is open, it can be straight or branched. And when it is closed, it is called a ring. We then used some basic terminology, basic prefixes. We decided meth, eth, prop, but, pent, hex, hept, oct, nona, and deca. To count, to indicate number of carbon atoms that are present in a hydrocarbon. Then, once we got the basic understanding of what the simplest form of carbon compounds are, where they only contain carbon and hydrogen, we started looking at other type of carbon compounds that may have other elements. Right? And before we studied them, we understood something called as heteroatoms and functional groups. So in hydrocarbons, in place of hydrogen, if there are some other atoms, then those atoms are called heteroatoms. Sometimes it's a single atom, sometimes it's a group of atoms. And together, they are called functional groups because they give specific property to the molecules, to the compounds. We listed all these heteroatoms and functional groups. Halo, alcohol, aldehyde, ketone, carboxylic acid, ether, ester, amines. And we realized that because these functional groups give them the specific chemical properties, and it doesn't matter how many carbon atoms are there in the chain. Now, this group of molecules which have the same functional group, same heteroatoms, they form a homologous series. So if there is a group of the group of molecules which has OH, they are called alcohols. The group of molecules which has CHO, they are called aldehydes and ketones and carboxylic acids and ethers and esters and amines. So the name of the functional group and the name of the homologous series, they are the same. Don't worry, they are the same. Most importantly, we said that it is not just the heteroatom which make a functional group. Even the double bond and triple bond, they are also considered as functional group because they also provide specific properties. They also give rise to specific properties of the group of compounds. We then realized some trends in these homologous series. From one to the next, number of carbon atoms increase by 1. From one to the next, the methylene units increase by 1. From one to the next, the boiling point increases. That is, there is gradation in the physical properties, but the chemical properties are similar. Now, because from one to the next, there is an increase of methylene unit, which is CH2, there is an increase of 14 units of atomic mass. Trends in any homologous series. Then we used a little mathematics and we realized that all homologous series have specific general formula. For example, for alkane, it is 2n H2n plus 2, Cn and H2n plus 2. For alkenes, it is Cn H2n. And for alkynes, it is Cn H2n minus 2. We will find a general formula for all the homologous series. You don't need to know everything, but we can find just by observation. After understanding what homologous series are, we realize that there are so many compounds and there is so much complexity in the molecules of the compounds. We need to have proper naming convention so that there is clarity, there is no confusion. So there is an old system, there is a common system, which is a system of common names, which is not standard. But then there is a committee, which is called International Union for Pure and Applied Chemistry. Here the scientists, they decide how to give a name to a carbon compound. This year, we have restricted ourselves to carbon compounds with only straight chain carbon atoms, also only one functional group. And to find the name of such carbon compounds, we said we need 3 things. Number 1, we need to know how many carbon atoms are there in the chain. That is, identify the parent alkane. Second step, we need to identify the functional group, including the double triple bond. Finally, we need to identify the position of the functional group. Using these 3 information, we can find out the names of the carbon compounds. So some of the names we tried on Zoom yesterday. Some other names we tried in the class yesterday. Some more names we will try today also when we meet in school. In the second session yesterday, we studied about the chemical properties of carbon compounds. First property is combustion. This is, chemically speaking, this is oxidation, where the carbon compound burns, and it usually burns cleanly, producing heat, light, carbon dioxide, and water. But sometimes when the carbon compound is unsaturated or the oxygen supply is not enough, then some carbon remains unburned and the flame is yellow, not blue. Then we looked at oxidation in general, not burning, but oxidation, where oxygen can also be derived from some other chemical, or hydrogen can be removed, or electrons can be removed. And we came across these two substances which are called oxidizing agents, potassium permanganate and potassium dichromate. Potassium permanganate is very common compound, KMnO4. It is pink in color, and we saw how it can oxidize ethanol into ethanoic acid. And these are the two compounds that we will study today in detail: ethanol and ethanoic acid. Another reaction that we studied was addition reaction, where we saw how the unsaturated hydrocarbons, they can break the double or triple bonds that are there in the molecule, that can break, and more monovalent ions can be added. Monovalent radicals can be added. For example, iodine and bromine, they have one valency. So if a double bond, one of the double bonds is broken, two bromine or iodine atoms can be added. Same thing happens when a bond of a triple bond also breaks. And not just halogen, even hydrogen can be added. And that process has a special name, which is called hydrogenation. And we all use this process. We are use the output of this process, which is the vanaspati ghee. Vegetable oil, for example, the palm oil is unsaturated. It's an unsaturated hydrocarbon. When we pass hydrogen gas through it in the presence of a catalyst like platinum nickel, usually nickel, then the hydrogen, the unsaturated hydrocarbons, they undergo this addition reaction where the double and triple bonds break, and they are replaced by single bonds with hydrogen. Because of this, the unsaturated hydrocarbon turns into saturated hydrocarbon, and the state also changes from liquid to solid. We first studied about this reaction in chapter number 3. Finally, we saw that this reaction with halogens is also possible in case of saturated hydrocarbons. But because they are saturated, there is no double or triple bond to be broken. But what is possible is we can replace hydrogen with the halogens. We came across this reaction as chlorination of methane last year, and this year we are calling it a substitution reaction. So substitution reaction can be considered as a displacement reaction. If we try to match what we are studying in this chapter with what we have studied in chapter number 3, where we studied different types of reaction also. So substitution reaction is a displacement reaction. The addition reaction is a combination reaction. Oxidation and combustion, of course, they are oxidation reactions. And combustion is a exothermic reaction also. It produces heat, so it's an exothermic reaction. This is what we studied yesterday. Today, as I said, we will focus on two very commercially important carbon compounds, that are ethanol and ethanoic acid. Let us understand how the structure of ketone is a little, we need to be a bit careful. And so is the case with the, I'll tell you what. See the difference in the way the formulae for functional groups are written. Realize the difference, right? You see, one group is alcohol, aldehyde, then carboxylic acid, and amines. This is one group. Why am I saying one group? They have a open bond on one side. Okay. So alcohol, aldehyde, carboxylic acid, and amines. They are very clear. They can join to another group of atoms at only one place. But these three, ketone, ether, and ester, see that they have multiple open bonds, unused valencies. 2, 2, and 2. Please realize this difference, acknowledge this difference. And the consequence of that is, if we see it in a different place, 2 on left and right, on left and right, and on left and right, ketone, ethers, and esters. The consequence of this is, these groups, these functional groups, these heteroatoms cannot be at any end of carbon compounds. They cannot be. There has to be something on its left, there has to be something on its right. And because of that, generally, not generally, always, on both their side, on either side, there is at least one carbon atom. There is at least one carbon atom for ketone, ether, and ester. Please note this point. Ketone, ether, and ester. The functional groups are CO, O, and COO. So they must have at least one carbon atom on either side connected to them. So we are trying question number 7, part H. 7, part H, which says, draw the structural formula for butanon. Now, to solve any such question, we first need to break down the name. We get the prefix, we get the suffix. BUT tells us that we need a carbon chain of 4 carbon atoms. So 1, 2, 3, 4. ONE at the end tells us that it's a ketone. That means the functional group is CO. The functional group is CO. Also, remember, CO is written like this, or it is written like this. So we need at least one carbon atom on either side. So our O cannot be here. Our O cannot be here. Not possible. Our O can be here. This is possible. Our O can also be here. It will be the same thing. Now we can complete the valency of carbon with hydrogen. This is butanon. This is butanon, and the functional group is the second carbon atom. 1, 2, 3, 4. It cannot be the first carbon atom. What happens if we keep it on the first carbon atom? We tried this in the class yesterday. So we will start with the same 4 carbon atoms. And if we keep O at the end, then we are filling the valency of carbon with hydrogen. We are completing the valency of hydrogen, a valency of carbon with hydrogen. And of course, for the last carbon here, 1, 2, 3, so 1 more. Now, please be careful. This is not a ketone. Now the functional group is this, CHO, which is an aldehyde. It is actually butanal. So let us be careful, understand the difference, understand the peculiarity of these 3 functional groups, ketones, esters, and ethers. They will not be at the end. They will be somewhere in the middle. So the correct structural formula for butanon is this one on your screen. So with that revision of the content that we have already studied in this chapter and a clarification about ketone, esters, ethers, especially about butanol. Now let us jump into the last section of the chapter, which is about commercially important carbon compounds. Remember, we studied about other carbon compounds. We have studied about other carbon compounds last year. We have studied about carbon dioxide. We have seen how it is used even in fire extinguishers. We have studied about carbon monoxide. We have methane, how it is used in, it is an important part of biogas. This year, in this chapter, we will study about ethanol and ethanoic acid. In the beginning, I said, when we will study these compounds, ethanol and ethanoic acid, we will study what they are, their properties, both physical and chemical, also what are their uses. So start from what they are. And when we say what they are, we need to know their structure and formula. Now all of you are already well informed. When we come across the name ethanol, we know how to go about it. We already know. We know that we need to break the name. One part is this, another part is this, ETH and OL. ETH tells us that there are 2 carbon atoms, and OL tells us that the functional group is OH. It's an alcohol. So if we write the structural formula, it will be like this: 1 carbon, 2 carbon. Let me write it in a better way. And the functional group. Now we will complete the valency of carbon. So this is the detailed structure of ethanol. If we write the condensed structure, we can write like this: CH3 single bond, CH2 single bond, OH. Sometimes people also write like this: H3C, CH2, OH. It's the same thing. I always use this. It's very standard. So don't use this. Just use one method: CH3, CH2, OH. So both are structural formula. The one on the left hand side is more detailed than the one on the right hand side. Now then, what is the formula? Formula is just using the symbols of the elements. So C2, with 2C we have 5H, so H5 and OH. This is the standard way how the formula for alcohols are written. OH is written separately in your textbook. Unfortunately, sometimes it writes like this: C2H6O. I mean, mathematically speaking, it's not wrong, but this is what is used generally. We will not use this, but we will know this, and just in case there is a question like this. So if we see C2H6O, we will know that yes, it is perhaps alcohol. कैसे जानेंगे हम? We will see that it is CN. This is H. कितना? 3N? No, it's not 3N. It's H. 2N plus 2 and O. This is the general formula of alcohol. Or in another way, we can say it is CN, H2N plus 1 OH. Both are correct. We use this more often. Now this ethanol commonly, so this ethanol is a IUPAC name. It's the standard name. But commonly it is called as alcohol or spirit. Now there is a class of compounds. There is a homologous series which is called alcohol. There is a functional group which is called alcohol, and in common language this compound is also called as alcohol or spirit. Sharab. This is the main constituent of alcohols that are consumed for intoxication. alcohol or spirit. So ethanol is C2H5OH. What are its physical properties? Once again, if you look at page number 127, top of the page, first paragraph, you will realize that ethanol at room temperature is a colorless liquid. It doesn't have any color and it is liquid. It has a boiling point which is 78 degrees Celsius. No, I have not come across any question in any exam which asks about the boiling point of the ethanol, but there can be questions about right short nose on ethanol. So if that is the case, then we need to know these things. Colorless liquid, boiling point 78 degrees Celsius. It is soluble in water. Many organic solvents, they don't dissolve in water. For example, oils, they don't dissolve in water. They have completely different densities. But ethanol is soluble in water. And when it is dissolved in water, it is neutral. It is neutral. It is not acidic. It is not basic. It will not turn blue litmus red. It will not turn red litmus blue. It is soluble and it is neutral. Now, ethanol, as I said, is commonly known as alcohol or spirit, and human beings, they consume it for intoxication. Right? Why does this happen? How does it happen? What are its effects? Ethanol, alcohol, has a big effect on our physiological processes, the biochemical processes that occur in our body. Mainly, it has an impact on the liver. Liver is considered to be the chemical factory of our body. Liver produces lots of enzymes and other things that help digest the food. Now, if liver is damaged, we will not be able to digest food. That means we may eat a lot, but that eating will be of no use because we will not be able to derive nutrition from it. Liver gets damaged. Also, ethanol affects our central nervous system. That is, it affects how our brain and our other nerves, spinal cords function. It reduces our understanding. It reduces our reaction. It increases our reaction time. We will not be able to think quickly. We will not be able to act quickly. This is called intoxication. होश खोना, बदहवास होना. Also, if pure ethanol, which is also called as absolute alcohol, is consumed, it is lethal. It will cause death. How dangerous this substance is. So science clearly tells us that it is not good for us. It is not good for our liver. It is not good for our brains. It is not good for our life. Okay? So perhaps we should all decide that we will not use alcohol. You may ask, कि बाकी लोग तो they use alcohol, they drink. That's the risk that people take. Better to avoid. Definitely, when we are young, our bodies are not strong enough to deal with these things, alcohols. And this may also cause addiction that we have studied in social health. Alcoholism is another addiction. Better not to use alcohol. A site which is given in a pink box on the same page, page number 127. Now, there is a mention of another alcohol, which is methanol. Methanol causes death consumed in any amount. And people, when they are trying to produce ethanol, alcohol in an illegal way, they end up sometimes, because they don't know how to produce this correctly, and these reactions are very difficult to control. Instead of producing ethanol, they end up producing methanol, and that takes lives. We come across these news items almost every day. So one use that we will not do is to drink alcohol for pleasure. Let's not do that. But then what are its other uses? Because it is such a good solvent, it is used to produce medicines and other things also. It is also used as a fuel, or it is used as an additive to the petrol that we use. This we have studied in biotechnology. We produce ethanol from, or we produce biofuel from sugarcane molasses. Right now, it is not used as a separate fuel, but it is added to the petrol. So it decreases the cost of petrol, and also it increases the efficiency of petrol. And such fuels are also called as gasohol. Alcohol, gasohol. It's the same alcohol. Can take life, can intoxicate you, can be used in medicine, can be used as a fuel also. So it is up to us how we use it. Let us move on and understand what its chemical properties are. Now, in the textbook, be careful while we are listing the chemical properties of ethanol, because in this chapter, 2 properties are given, but at the beginning of the listing of the properties, we are still on page number 127. If you read under the heading chemical properties of ethanol, it starts by saying they have already seen one property previously. So actually, our textbook talks about 3 chemical properties of ethanol. Not 2, but 3. First one is oxidation. We came across this reaction when we studied about oxidation reaction of carbon compounds. We said ethanol gets oxidized by potassium permanganate to produce ethanoic acid. We also understood that we can even see this reaction because KMNO4 is pink. While the oxidation happens, it loses its pink color. But when all the ethanol is converted into ethanoic acid, the pink color remains. Now it is not used. Remember also that when we say chemical properties, we are mainly referring to chemical reactions that a compound takes part in. So the first chemical property and first reaction for ethanol is how it gets oxidized to produce ethanoic acid, which is the second compound that we will study in detail today. When we are writing a reaction, we can use the molecular formula. We need not use the structural. These reactions are written this way in the textbook just to make us understand what is happening to the carbon compound. So it is clearer if you use the structural formula, but it's perfectly fine if you use the molecular formula. Yes, so we have seen this already. We are just revising it now. The second reaction, which we are going to study for the first time, is how ethanol reacts with sodium. So very simple. Ethanol displaces hydrogen from ethanol. Sodium displaces hydrogen from ethanol. So here is another displacement reaction. Now we are smart. We know what is happening. Here is the sodium. Here is the hydrogen. देखो कहाँ पर sodium यहाँ आकर बैठ गया. Sodium is taking the place of hydrogen, and hydrogen is released. Hydrogen is the molecular form, so it is written as H2. It is released, and to balance, we have a 2 here, we have a 2 here, and we have a 2 here. So hydrogen gas is released. When ethanol reacts with sodium, sodium displaces hydrogen, and hydrogen gas is released. So we can say this is a displacement reaction. Can you tell me what else we can call this? One is displacement. What can be the other name? Think about the reactions that we know, the typical reactions. Combination, displacement, double displacement, oxidation, reduction, exothermic, endothermic, fast, slow. What is happening here? Anushka, substitution we will not consider because that's not a standard terminology, right? Yes, Tushar, this is a reduction reaction. Is it? Tushar, you are on the correct track, but your answer is wrong. It's not reduction, it is actually oxidation. See what happened? We have removed hydrogen. So removal of hydrogen is same as addition of oxygen. So this is also oxidation. This reaction can be considered as a displacement reaction. This can also be considered as an oxidation reaction. And we are referring to the standard types of reactions that we studied in chapter number 3. Finally, the same ethanol in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, which acts as a catalyst, when it is heated, it loses water. It loses water. And this loss of water, of course, it is losing oxygen. Of course, it is losing hydrogen. So because it is losing oxygen, we can say it is reduction. Because it is losing hydrogen, we can also say it is oxidation. But it is losing both together. Water is produced, so this is called dehydration. Hydration means adding water. Dehydration means removing water. Very simple. So let's count the number of C's and see if they're balanced or not. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1. Then if we consider the H2s, kitne hain? 2, 2 and 2, 4. 3 and 1, 4. So is it balanced now? Yes. 1 more H2, 1 more H2, 1 O, 1 O. What I'm trying to say here is that this concentrated H2SO4 is not taking part in the reaction. It is just the ethanol which is breaking down into, what is the name of this molecule? Now you can name it. We know what this is. 2 carbon atoms, double bond. What is it? No, Anushka, it is not ethane. Definitely not ethane. What is it? 2 carbon atoms and double bond. It is ethene, correct. It is ethene. So alcohol is transformed into an unsaturated. A saturated molecule is converted into an unsaturated molecule of carbon compound. And water is released. So this is a dehydration reaction. So, and in this, H2SO4 is not taking part. It is only making the reaction possible. Okay? So it is a catalyst. All these chemical properties of ethanol, and not just ethanol, of all the alcohols, are mainly due to this functional group, OH. That is the main party in this, that is the main actor in all this. OH becomes OOH. Again, the H of OH is replaced by Na. Again, this OH along with one H goes out as water. Homologous series functional group. While studying ethanol, we have already come across ethanoic acid. We have seen how ethanol can be oxidized to form ethanoic acid. But we will study it in detail. So we will start from the basics, the structure and the formula, that is structural formula and the molecular formula. We know now for this kind of a study, we need to know the prefix and we need to know the suffix. So eth tells us there are 2 carbon atoms, and oic acid tells us that the functional group is COOH. It's a carboxylic acid. So I can write the structural formula as C and C, 2 carbon. Now it is oic acid, so OOH. Now I can complete the valency of carbon with hydrogen. I can write the same structural formula as CH3, COOH. Molecular formula is written like this, CH3, COOH, where we will not show the bond. Right? So this is called ethanoic acid. I'm pretty sure now you don't have a doubt with this, but again, difference between OH and COOH is this functional group contains a carbon. So be careful about counting the carbon atoms. We cannot add 2 more carbon atoms to this. That will be propanoic acid. Okay. Just like the ethanol, the ethanoic acid also has a common name, which all of you know. We have studied this in multiple places in multiple years. Remind me, what is the common name of ethanoic acid? You can speak or type. What is the common name of ethanoic acid? Ethanoic acid commonly is called as acetic acid. And we have studied acetic acid in science too also, in biotechnology, in microbiology, right? When we studied vinegar. Vinegar is form of acetic acid that we use in our daily lives. It's the same thing. It's dilute. Acetic vinegar is a very, very dilute acetic acid. I think in our science 2 textbook, it said 4%. 4% acetic acid is called vinegar. Before we move forward, let us check how our textbook is. Because I see, I have an old textbook. I see there is a problem with the textbook. Okay? Let us see how it is in your textbook. You have the latest textbooks with you. So go to page number 128, where the section about ethanol ends and the section about ethanoic acid starts. I've shared it with you on the screen. Now the problem is, it's just a very silly mistake. There was no need to call this science, and the box should have ended here. The section about ethanoic acid starts here. This is the start. Please check your textbooks and make necessary annotations. Ethanoic acid is not there in the box. It is only the alcohol as a fuel which is in the box. Gasohol. Make the changes and give me a confirmation. Good. So let us switch back to our presentation. Once we have understood what ethanoic acid is, let us now see what its physical properties are. It's very, some of the physical properties are similar to those of ethanol. This is also a colorless substance, and this is also liquid at room temperature. But the boiling point is higher, a little higher. Ethanol's boiling point was 78 degrees Celsius. Boiling point of ethanoic acid is 118 degrees Celsius. Once again, I have not come across any question which asks about the boiling point of ethanoic acid, but this information, it becomes relevant if you have to write notes on specific compounds. And interestingly, its melting point is 17 degrees Celsius. Why is it interesting? It is interesting because even in India, there are places in India where in the winter, the temperature falls below 17 degrees Celsius. That means there are places in this world where the room temperature is below the melting point of ethanoic acid. So when that happens, this compound exists in solid form, not liquid form. And because it is colorless, it looks like ice. It is called glacial acetic acid. Glacier, we know, the river of snow, river of ice, Himani glacier. So it's called glacial acetic acid. Just a interesting piece of information, which is also included in your textbook, which is unfortunately because of the printing mistake, it is included in the box, but it was originally out of the box. Just like ethanol, ethanoic acid is also soluble in water. It is also soluble in water. Now tell me, the solution of ethanol, if you remember correctly, I mentioned is neutral. It was neutral. I also told you that it does not turn blue litmus red. It does not turn red litmus blue. It doesn't do anything to the litmus paper. What will be the nature of ethanoic acid solution in water? Will it be acidic? Will it be basic? Or will it be neutral? And why? What will be the nature of the solution of ethanoic acid in water, with water? The answer is in the name itself. Correct? It will be acidic. The name itself says acid. It is an acid. However, as we studied last year also, this is a weak acid. It's a very weak acid. But acid it is. Now tell me, if it is acid, what will it do? Will it turn blue litmus red or will it turn red litmus blue? Do you remember? How do we know whether something is acid or base? We use litmus paper, right? What will happen? Very good, Alfia. It will turn blue litmus red. It will turn blue to red. When the blue litmus turns red, all we know is it is acidic. How do we know how acidic, how strong or how weak this acid is? How will we know? What do we need to do? We need to find a value. We need to find the strength of this acid. We need to find a value. What is that value called? This also we studied last year. I've given you half the answer, some value. What value is it? pH value, correct. So using litmus paper, we can just find out whether something is acidic or basic. But if we have to find the exact strength of that acid or a base, we will have to find the pH value, and we studied multiple ways of doing that. We can use pH paper, we can also use electronic pH meters, right, to find exact pH value. That means the concentration of hydrogen ions that are produced in the solution with water. No, we don't need to know this for this year, but to complete our education, to complete the story of alcohols and ethanol acids, we need to know this. Good. So these are the physical properties. So let us appreciate how they are similar and how they are different from ethanol. So now we have understood what ethanoic acid is, what are its physical properties. So the next thing is, what are its chemical properties? And this is the absolutely last part of the chapter, but this gives very, very, very important information, and information that we have not come across before. Just the information which we will not study again. This information is only one place in the entire textbook. Chemical properties of ethanoic acid. Unfortunately, also there are no questions related to this. I mean, there are questions related to this, but there are no long questions related to this. But because of the omission of so much of portion from the textbook, this becomes important. So, jo reh gaya, most of it is important now. So, pay attention. We will study the chemical properties of ethanoic acid under two main reactions. One is a neutralization reaction, chapter number 3 this year, and chemical reactions chapter last year. The another reaction that we will study is esterification. One is neutralization, another is esterification. Can someone please remind me what is neutralization reaction? If there is a question for 1 mark, what is a neutralization reaction? Neutralization reaction is basically a reaction between acid and base. So acid reacts with base to form a salt and water. This is the basic structure of a neutralization reaction. Basic structure. Now, this ethanoic acid, this compound, by definition, is an acid. So, in the neutralization reaction, we will see how it reacts with bases. We will understand what salts it produces. That is what we will understand. Esterification is a completely new reaction. Here we will see how esters are produced. Remember, esters are also a functional group. If you go back to page number 118, the functional group ester is COO. Finally, we will see how a ester looks like, what is its name, how is it named, and what are its properties. So these are the two main reactions that we will study for ethanoic acid, for the chemical properties of ethanoic acid. Let us start with the first reaction, which will be, or which is, the neutralization reaction. I'll tell you what saponification is when we come to esterification. Now, the neutralization reaction, the ethanoic acid undergoes neutralization reaction both with strong bases and weak bases. Both. Now, these are the terms that we studied last year. Acid, base, salt. Strong acid, weak acid. Strong base, weak base. Alkali. Basic salt, acidic salt, neutral salt. We got the foundations last year. Now, we know already, we have to know already that sodium hydroxide is a strong base. So when we say neutralization reaction or reaction with a strong base, so acetic acid or the ethanoic acid reacts with NaOH, a base, to form a salt and to form a water and water. So that basic structure of the reaction remains same. What is happening though? Now this sodium of NaOH displaces the hydrogen of ethanoic acid. And this hydrogen combines with the OH of the base to form water. It's a very typical reaction, typical neutralization reaction. What is the name of this salt? The name of this salt is sodium ethanoate. S-O-D-I-U-M. Ethanoate. This is the IUPAC name. There is a common name also, which is called sodium acetate, because it is acetic acid. Ethanoic acid, sodium ethanoate. Acetic acid, so sodium acetate. It is the salt. What happens when it reacts with weak bases? Remember, hydroxides usually are strong bases, whereas carbonates and bicarbonates are weak bases, or they are salts, weak basic salts. Let's not call it weak base now. We should call it what? Salts, but it's okay. Now, carbonate of sodium will be sodium carbonate. Bicarbonate of sodium will be the sodium bicarbonate. Good thing for us is the reaction is almost the same as the neutralization reaction. Just one difference is, in addition to water, carbon dioxide is also produced. The same salt, sodium ethanoate, is produced. It's the same salt. You can compare it with the reactions of acids with hydroxides, acids with carbonates and bicarbonates. I will change the slide, and when I send, I will say carbonate and bicarbonate. I will change it to salts. Hands or thumbs? Let me make the changes right now, right away. The reaction where the ethanoic acid is reacting with sodium carbonate or sodium bicarbonate is set up like this. There is a big stand which holds a test tube. The test tube has acetic acid, or that is ethanoic acid, and we drop sodium carbonate in it. What are we putting through this thistle funnel? Of course, we are putting acetic acid. Agar kam ho gaya to, or we fill it. Now, when the reaction happens, some gas is produced. Remember what this gas is? This is carbon dioxide. What do we have here? This is lime water, calcium hydroxide. And you know what happens when carbon dioxide gas is passed through lime water? Tell me quickly, what happens? What will happen to the lime water when carbon dioxide gas passes through it? When carbon dioxide gas passes through lime water, it turns milky. So this is how we confirm that the gas that is coming out of this reaction is carbon dioxide. Similarly, if we go back a bit to the reaction of ethanol, right? You see some gas is coming out when it is reacting with sodium. This is hydrogen gas that is coming out. Do you remember what test do we have to confirm whether it is hydrogen or not? If we take a candle which is burning and show it to this gas, it will suddenly glow bright. There may be a small sound blast and it will extinguish. A pop sound and it will extinguish. That confirms that this is hydrogen. Similarly, we can use lime water to test and to confirm that the gas coming out of this reaction of ethanoic acid with sodium carbonate is carbon dioxide gas. This diagram has also been used in some of the practice papers as to what gas is it, what is the reaction, how do we know that this is carbon dioxide. Such questions are asked. Another interesting question here is how do we differentiate? It's given as use your brain power on page number 130, is how do we differentiate between ethanol and ethanoic acid. So one way to do that is we carry out this reaction. We carry out the reaction of whatever we have been given. Both will be colorless, both will be liquid. So we will try to react them, both with sodium and both with sodium carbonate. Alcohol, the ethanol will react with sodium and it will produce hydrogen that we can detect by taking a candle to it. And the other compound, the other liquid, will not react with sodium. It will react with sodium carbonate to produce carbon dioxide gas. And that can be detected by passing it through lime water. And we can decide which is ethanol and which is ethanoic acid. The last reaction that we are going to study, or the last chemical property that we are going to study for ethanoic acid, is the reaction which is called esterification. It is called esterification because in this reaction, ester is produced. What is this reaction? Very interesting reaction because it's a reaction of a carboxylic acid with alcohol. In this example, or in this particular case, the carboxylic acid is ethanoic acid and the alcohol is ethanol. Of course, there has to be proper conditions for this, so that we need some acid, we need some catalyst. So what happens is this H from carboxylic acid combines with the OH of the alcohol to form water. This H combines with this OH to form water. Now, this part of the carboxylic acid combines with this part of the alcohol to form ester. This is the ester. How do we know this is ester? See this group, COO. COO. So this ester is called ethanoate. Ethyl ethanoate. How do we carry out this reaction? We take ethanoic acid, ethanol in a test tube. This is the test tube. And we take sulfuric acid concentrated, H2SO4, which acts as a catalyst, and we heat it. Not directly heat it, we heat it in water. We will notice that it will start smelling nice. So after some time, when we take the test tube and put the content of this test tube in a glass of water, that glass of water will start smelling nicely. It will have a sweet smell. Esters have sweet odor. Odor means smell. We also have sweet smells from fruits, and the fruits have their sweet smell because of esters that are present in them. It is the esters that are used to produce fragrances. Perhaps you would have started seeing the commonality between the word ester and the word itr or ittar, fragrances. Esters are also used as flavoring agents. Not necessary that a banana cake will have banana in it, but it definitely has banana flavor. That comes from esters. Esters are further used to make something very interesting. Esters, if they react with sodium hydroxide, remember what esters are formed from. Esters are formed by the reaction of carboxylic acid with an alcohol. There is a way we can almost reverse that reaction. We can separate the carboxylic acid from the alcohol, and that is done almost, not fully. That is done by reacting an ester with a base, sodium hydroxide, NaOH. Now this Na will go sit with the carboxylic acid part to form a sodium salt of carboxylic acid, which is called sodium carboxylate. And this OH will join with the alcohol part of the ester and it will form the alcohol. Separation, but with sodium. The reason this reaction is called saponification, because this sodium carboxylate salt is what is used as soap for cleaning. When we use fats, they also have esters in them. Apologies for the typo. When it reacts with sodium hydroxide, it forms soap and glycerin, where glycerin is the alcohol part and this is the soap part, sodium carboxylate. Saponification is the reaction in which esters react with a base like sodium hydroxide to form the sodium carboxylate, which is soap, and alcohol. Saponification is the reaction by which soap is produced. So, to summarize, there are multiple uses of ethanoic acid. It is used in the production of vinegar that we have studied in Science 2. 4% ethanoic acid is vinegar, and vinegar is used to produce other things. It is also used to produce esters because they are used as fragrances and flavoring agents. Ethanoic acid also used for the production of soap. Extremely commercially useful carbon compound, ethanoic acid. Let us now have a quick look at the remaining questions of the exercise that are relevant to the exam, this year's syllabus. I will share the textbook with you on the screen. You also should open your textbooks and go to the exercise page of exercises on page number 133. We have completed all the questions of match the pairs. Question number 1. We have completed all the questions under draw the dot structure. Question number 2. We have completed all the questions which talks about isomers, structural formulae for these 3, C3H8, C4H10 and C3H4. We have already completed structural isomerism, covalent bond, heteroatom, functional group, alkane, unsaturated hydrocarbon, reduction and oxidant from question number 4. We will not need monomer and homopolymer this year. This is no longer part of the syllabus because they will be covered under macromolecules. We will see quickly after we complete the remaining questions. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 are done as far as exams are concerned. Number 5 is writing the names from the structural formula. We have completed it. Number 7 is writing the structural formula from IUPAC name. That also we completed. And today morning, in the beginning, we clarified, we relooked at butanol, and we realized that we have to be very careful with structural formula of ketones, esters, and ethers. These functional groups cannot be at the end of the molecule, right? So 7 is also complete. From question number 8, we have completed A, we have completed B, we have completed C, we have completed D. E is not required because it is related to polymer, the macromolecules. We have completed G, which is about catalyst. Now today we can complete vinegar and gasohol or gasohol. Now see that in the current chapter nothing is given about vinegar, but gasohol is given. Vinegar is covered in science 2. So we can combine those and we can find the answer for this. Not a difficult thing. For me, the most interesting question, and for us, the most interesting question, which is very efficient way of getting marks, is question number 6, where we have to identify the type of reactions, which we have already completed some. First one is oxidation, where alcohol is converting into carboxylic acid. Second one in which the propane is converting into carbon dioxide and water. That means this is combustion. This is also done. In the third one, the double bond is broken. It is replaced with single bond and bromine is added. So this is addition. In the fourth one, chlorine is taking place of hydrogen in ethane. So this is chlorination or substitution reaction. So A, B, C, D clearly done. E, F, G, we have done it in a particular way. We will revisit them to get the exact names in the correct context, in the context of the current chapter. Now, refer to your textbooks and tell me this reaction. Alcohol, we are doing something to an alcohol, because of which an unsaturated hydrocarbon is produced and water is released. Water. This is the operative word of water. So what kind of reaction is this? Question number 6, part E. The reaction is a dehydration reaction in which the saturated hydrocarbon, alcohol, is converted into an unsaturated hydrocarbon and an alkene, and water is released. Water is removed. Dehydration. Similarly, 6F, it's a type of reaction, not it's a reaction. It's a type of reaction that we studied when we studied acetic acid, that is ethanoic acid. In this example, 6F, we don't have ethanoic acid, we have propanoic acid. Propanoic acid reacting with sodium hydroxide. But what we studied just now is ethanoic acid reacting with sodium hydroxide. We said it's a neutralization reaction. Yes, it's a neutralization reaction where a salt of sodium propanoate is formed and water is released. So it's a neutralization reaction. Finally, 6G, where a carboxylic acid is reacting with an alcohol. So it is acetic acid reacting with methanol. Acid, alcohol. It is esterification, because you see on the right hand side, we have an ester. Methyl ethanoate. And water is produced. So 6E is an example of dehydration reaction. 6F is an example of neutralization reaction, and 6G is an example of esterification.